Hey guys, it's Nihon Reboot. So I know what you're thinking. Where have you been? Well, I just didn't feel like making videos. Just gonna be blunt with it. Work. I work 40 hours a week, and it's usually from 12 to 9, which is actually like more than 40 hours a week. But I'm supposed to say 40 hours a week. Um, and with only 2 days off, I'm really skeptical. If that's the correct word. I don't know. Like I'm very careful of what I do with my time because I only get 2 days. But anyways, yeah. So I haven't been making many videos just because I've been trying to manage my time differently. But today I want to talk about not interracial couples, but not interracial couples, but like talking with interracial people in general. So as you guys know, I'm American from Florida, and in America there are races, different races everywhere you look, right? So no matter where you go, you're gonna see like, oh, another like black person or a Chinese person or uh, whatever I am. You'll see those everywhere, right? And in Japan, right now, if I remember correctly, I read somewhere, actually multiple places, that less than 1% of Japan's population is foreign, right? I think they're basing that statistic off of people living in Japan rather than like tourists. But of that 1%, like a majority of that less than 1% is another type of Asian. So what I'm getting at is like non-Asians in Japan are that actually live in Japan are extremely scarce, right? So as you guys know, I live in Kansai. I'm very close to Osaka and Kobe, right? Actually, I'm in Kobe technically. And if I go into the big areas like Nipponbashi, Shinsaibashi, Nanba, or for Kobe, Sanomiya, also again I forgot to mention Umeda and probably a couple of others. You're going to see foreigners there. It's very easy to spot them because these are tourist areas, and so it's common. But if you leave those areas, the odds of coming across another foreigner are extremely scarce. So, um, but when you do come across another foreigner outside of those areas that aren't really tourists that are actually living in here, it's quite an interesting experience. So in Sanomiya, there's uh, not Korean. There's a Indian restaurant that I really like to go to. It's a little bit pricey, but the food there is really good. And so yesterday I went there. I've been there like 4 or 5 times so far in the past couple months. So I really like it there. The Indian guy that works there, he's married to a Japanese woman, and he speaks fluent Japanese. He speaks fluent English, and he speaks fluent whatever his native language is, uh, some type of Indian language, I'm assuming, right? And yesterday I was there, eating my curry, eating my naan, minding my own business, and it was a very empty. It was very empty that day, and I noticed that there was an Asian woman who looked to be like in her 40s or 50s. She was pretty up there, but she was probably more like 90, since Asians don't really age, so she was probably hiding behind it. I don't really know. I don't know her age. But next to her was a very old man that really couldn't move very much. He had to use a cane. And yeah, he looked old. Like he was definitely in his like 70s or 80s. So I couldn't tell if that was like her father or if she was actually really old, if that was her husband, or if there's just a big age difference between their marriage. Couldn't tell, right? So I walk in the restaurant. Just stepping back for a minute, I walk into the restaurant, and the Indian owner dude, he was actually sitting with them, and they were talking in Japanese. So, the guy, he looks at me, he's like, "Oh, welcome, welcome, come on," and he switches to English, and he sits me down, and I'm like, "Okay, okay, let me get this all-you-can-eat buffet," which is freaking good, but again, it's like $20. Um, so it's great. I don't always get the all you can eat, but I felt like splurging that day. And so I'm sitting there minding my own business, eating my food, and like the guy, he goes back to sitting down with the other couple, and he talks to them, and the Asian woman starts talking about his type, and he goes on to talk about, this is all in Japanese, by the way. He goes on to talk about how it's like it doesn't matter like if you're pretty or not, like personality is very important. And he also goes to say like, oh, his wife is his type. And he goes on to mention like other women um, that are non-Japanese, and the Asian woman immediately responds with, "Yeah, they really got big butts and big breasts." And I'm sitting there going, "Okay." So I'm interested in their conversation. I'm eavesdropping at this point because she's talking about like body parts of other races of women. She's like, "Oh yeah, they got such big breasts and big butts, and we got nothing here." And the guy's like, "Yeah, but you know, looks and appearance only go so far. That's why I love my wife." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay, okay. I see what you're saying here. I see what you're saying." Um, and he gets up and he goes into the kitchen, and I noticed, like out of the corner of my eye, like I'm going back to my food, right? I noticed that the Asian woman, she's pointing at me and whispering to the old man, and she points at me again, and I'm like, what's going on here? Why is she looking at me? Why is she pointing at me? All of a sudden, she asks me in Japanese. She's like, "Oh, where are you from? What country are you from?" Is actually a more direct translation. And I say, "Oh, I'm from America." She's like, "Oh, you're American." And I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "Oh, I thought you were Japanese." And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, you look Japanese." And I'm like, "So do you." So I tell her. She's like, long story short, I found out she's Korean and she married a Japanese man. Um, I don't, I don't know who, if that was the old man or not, but she married a Japanese man. And um, the Indian guy comes back to give me like more curry, more naan because I got the all you can eat buffet. And I say like she's very young. She looks very young. And he tells me, I think he actually said she's in her 50s. I don't remember if he said that or not, but he said something, and I said that she's young, and he says, "Oh, it's makeup. Trust me, I'm married to a Japanese woman. When you wake up next to them, and when you see them at the end of the day, they are two completely different faces. When they put on their makeup, they look significantly younger, but when they wake up, they look like Yoda." And I was just sitting there, just eating my curry. I'm like, "Oh, this is good information here. Thank you for telling me." Um, and he's like, "Oh, I like you. I like when you come down here. I could tell you're a good person." I'm like, "Oh, thank you. I really appreciate you. Giving me these compliments. Yeah, I don't really say anything. I just come here and eat your food." But okay, he's like, "Yeah, if I had something against you, I would immediately tell you to leave my restaurant." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks for telling me." So like, it was. Long story short, I end up joining them, and the four of us are speaking in Japanese. Like we have a Japanese old man, a Korean middle-aged elderly. I don't know what she is. A Korean woman. I'll just say that. Me and an Indian dude. The four of us are just talking, and this goes on for like an hour and a half. And it was a really interesting experience because we're having four different cultures hitting each other in the face. And I honestly thought it was very cool that we all had a common language that we can communicate in because we could never have done this in our native languages. And it was a very interesting experience. And I felt like this was video worthy talking about this because normally, like in America, if you run into another race, like I said, it's no big deal. Mainly because they're Americanized, right? So in America, you can see another Chinese person, you can see another black person, you can see another Indian person, but they're American, most likely, and they act and think like an American. But in Japan, if you run into a foreigner of a different country, they most likely came from their native homeland, not America, and they act completely different. They see things completely different and interact completely different. And I really enjoy this because I actually feel like in America, while we have all these different races, in a way, we're all the same. Um, like we're literally the same thing. You know that episode of The Fairly Odd Parents where Timmy Turner wishes that they were all the same and they end up being gray blobs. It's kind of like that. Like everyone's the same in America in a way, minus the high amounts of racism that comes. But I digress. But like my phone just went off. In Japan, like we're still the same. We're human. We're all equal. But the way we act, the way we function, the way we think, it's so drastically different. And I really like that part. I really like that diversity. Because I actually feel like it has true diversity, despite us being less than 1% of the population. I feel like when we actually meet, it's a huge diverseness, and I really enjoy it. And I really can't get that experience in America. So I'm very thankful that I do have this opportunity. But that's more or less about what I wanted to talk about in this video. If you have any questions or want to make any points, please let me know. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, feel free to subscribe. If not, you're adults most likely. You can do whatever you want with your time. If you don't want to hit that big red button, you do you, fam. I don't really care. So that'll be it for me for today. I'm going to go to the gym. All right. Thanks for watching. Peace.